Speedweek is brought to you by Dodge Cars and Trucks. On the street or off the road, it's the new spirit of Dodge.
Hi everyone, I'm Bob Jenkins and welcome to our first Speed Week for the month of October. Only a few weeks remain in this year's racing season. Many great points battles to bring you up to date on, and in just a moment, the story of an owner's revolt in IndyCar racing. But first, an update on AJ Foyt. On Tuesday afternoon, while practicing for the All-Pro Auto Parts 500, Foyt crashed hard into the third-turn wall at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The four-time Indy 500 winner was pulled from the wreckage after several minutes and carried to the infield care center. He was later airlifted to a Charlotte hospital and admitted in serious condition. So how's he doing now? Well, we couldn't take our cameras into the hospital, but we do have AJ on the telephone. AJ, thanks for talking with us. How you doing?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good, you know, considering everything. I've got a stiff neck and a very bad headache, but everything's looking pretty good.
AJ, what happened?
Well, actually, I went out and shook down the cars, the new front steer car we had here, and we ran pretty fast. And I made some changes on the car and went back out, and the second lap around, I punctured a right rear tire. And I guess Terry Labonte was behind me, and I got sideways, and I saved it once. And I guess he told Eddie Thrapp, that works with us at U.S. Tobacco, he said then he just ran a racetrack, and I guess I hit so hard right there at 4 that then I come down, and he said I was unconscious because I was laying across the steering wheel and now run into the inside wall.
You're listed in serious condition. Are you going to be okay, or is this a permanent injury that you suffered?
No, it's no permanent injury. I think one thing, the reason I'm still being monitored because I hit my chest, and I don't know if it bruised the heart or what, but I got what they call kind of a misfire in my heartbeat that I normally don't have, you know, and they say this comes sometime when you get roughed up like this.
AJ, we wish you the best, and thanks for taking time to talk with us.
Oh, okay, thank you.
In our next segment, we'll have a report on qualifying for Sunday's All-Pro Auto Parts 500 at Charlotte. In 1979, Championship Auto Racing Teams was formed when car owners felt the United States Auto Club wasn't listening to their problems. Now, 10 years later, the same thing seems to be happening. Gary Lee was at a hastily called car owners meeting yesterday in Denver.
When the Indy cars come to race in Denver next season, the Radisson Hotel will be just off the race course in the kart paddock area. But today, 20 Indy car owners are meeting inside the hotel, a meeting that could result in the restructuring of kart and a change in the direction of IndyCar racing. The only major IndyCar teams not represented were Foyt, Penske, Granatelli, and True Sports. After meeting for several hours behind closed doors, the owners decided not to talk with us individually and appointed Johnny Caples and Doug Shearson to speak on their behalf.
I think I could probably say very effectively that we're discussing everything that is necessary to an owner to participate in this series, to maintain a presence in this series, and to also advance this series further than it is advanced right now.
Although the owners would offer no specifics, there was talk of restructuring and giving the owners more control of their financial destiny. Such talk could mean that kart chairman John Frasco and president John Campanigro are in jeopardy of losing their positions. Such a scenario could also have the present kart board disbanded and replaced by an executive committee. Along the lines of escalating costs, the 1990 rules package may remain intact, but one representative did say look for changes in 1991, including the possibility of a flat-bottom race car. This week's meeting was described as positive and upbeat, but since the problems discussed have been around for a long time, why such a delay in holding the meeting?
Oh, boy, you've asked a great question there, Gary. I don't know. I mean, I think we will all agree this should have taken place years ago. And I think what really has perpetrated this meeting is that everybody finally realized, the vast majority of people realized that, hey, we have a problem.
Well, Gary is back from Denver now. You know, I spoke with John Campanigro on the phone yesterday and asked him if he would step down if asked to do so. He simply said, I don't know.
Well, whether or not John will step down, we understand that his contract expires in February, so the owners could have a smooth transition and perhaps a new leadership package in position by early next year. Now, yesterday's meeting in Denver will likely be the first of many such gatherings, but almost to the man, the owners said, hey, it was upbeat and very positive.
Gary, thank you, and keep us posted on any further updates. Well, a couple of other IndyCar notes. Alfa Romeo's IndyCar plans for next year will be formally announced next weekend, but we've learned that Alfa will switch teams from Johnny Capel's Morales Autosport to the Pat Patrick Racing Team, the 1989 champions. Roberto Guerrero will stay on as driver. And when we checked out the rumor that Roger Penske had already bought Atlanta International Raceway to run an IndyCar race, we found that Roger did make an offer on the facility, but was turned down.
Speedweek is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. And by Dodge Cars and Trucks. On the street or off the road, it's the new spirit of Dodge.
Coming up, Senna keeps the heat on for the world title. And NHRA finds there's no place like home.
There's a rough road ahead with no end in sight. Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
Quaker State is quality engineered to exceed every single American, European, and Japanese car maker's U.S. requirements for maximum engine protection.
So pistons are protected from friction mile after mile. Valves are protected from wear year in, year out.
That's why Quaker State engines run strong and run long.
Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Even when it's standing still, there's something about a fuel-injected, turbo-powered Dodge Daytona Shelby that'll blow you away.
Members of the National Council of Corvette Clubs. To them, there's no car but a vet and no tire but a Goodyear Eagle ZR. We invited them to a showdown, Dunlop D40 M2 against Eagle ZR. Slaloms on wet and dry roads. Hard cornering. Braking. Comfort and noise on the highway. Which tire would they buy now? All 10 pick the Dunlop D40 M2. Dunlop outperforms.
Hi, I'm Steve Evans. As an automotive reporter, I run across every new type of automotive product imaginable, but rarely does one impress me as much as this, Restore. If your car has over 40,000 miles on it and is beginning to lose power or burn oil, just add 1 can of Restore with your next oil change and you'll feel the difference with your next tank of gas. Restore's patented formula actually seals scratches in the engine cylinder walls which rob you of power. Put some life back into your engine. Believe me, you'll feel the Restore difference. They guarantee it.
Rain on the East Coast last weekend postponed the Holly Farms 400 Winston Cup race at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina until Sunday, October the 15th. The NASCAR teams then packed up and headed for Charlotte Motor Speedway, and that's where John Kernan joins us now for a report. John?
Well, Bob, the rain clouds have moved out of North Carolina for today, and a beautiful day to be at the racetrack for qualifying. In fact, it kind of reminds me of what happened last year. And if you happen to be superstitious, well, you got to like Rusty Wallace's chances of catching Dale Earnhardt in the Winston Cup points battle. It was right here at Charlotte, following the North Wilkesboro rainout, that Wallace began his incredible late-season charge, winning 4 of the last 5 races. Rusty made up 100 points on Bill Elliott during that span, and if he can repeat that performance, he could win his first Winston Cup.
Hey, that's great. They reminded me of that this morning. Last time it rained out, we came back and won the race, came back here and won Charlotte, went to Rockingham, won that, went to Phoenix, was leading that, and had a cut tire, then went on to land and won that. So, hey, suits the heck out of me. I think it looks good, and that's what I need to win this championship against this guy in the black right behind me.
No, this is a different year. Everything happens different. You know, we've had a couple bad races here at Charlotte for the last couple of years. We're going to change it this week.
The unique thing about this points battle is that the war is being waged between 2 friends.
Can I borrow your plane Friday to go run down to Gainesville and get Jody Davis?
Whatever you want.
Okay, I'll get Mike to fly it for me, okay?
You got it, buddy.
On the track, though, the 2 competitors won't cut each other any slack, as evidenced 2 weeks ago at Martinsville, when Dale waved Rusty around on the high side, allowing Darrell Waltrip to win the Goodies 500. Rusty says he won't make that same mistake twice.
Yeah, when he waves me to the outside, I go to the inside. That's what I'm going to do.
One of us is going to win it. One of us is going to run second, but there's always next year.
But for now, the defending points champ grabbed the spotlight from this year's contenders. Bill Elliott was the first to qualify and took care of business quickly, winning the pole with a lap of 174.081 miles an hour.
This is a good car for me. It's a car I run a lot and won a couple of races in, and it's been a real good race car, and it ought to be good here on Sunday.
Joining Elliott on the front row, Kenny Schrader. He's followed by Mark Martin, Darrell Waltrip, and Davey Allison. Well, Bob, a lot of cash up for grabs for the pole winner this weekend if he can also win the race. Along with the Unical bonus money and the winner's share of the purse, he could pocket somewhere around $300,000, a record.
Thank you very much, John. Always good to have you with us. Well, there's little doubt as to who you would like to see win the Winston Cup Championship. 62% of you voted for Dale Earnhardt in last week's Speedweek phone poll, while 26% of you said you hoped Rusty Wallace would win the championship. The other 12% of you voted for either Mark Martin, Darrell Waltrip, or Ricky Rudd. The American Speed Association has been a farm club of sorts for the NASCAR Winston Cup Stock Car Division. Recent graduates include Mark Martin, Alan Kowicki, Dick Trickle, and Rusty Wallace. Rusty's younger brother, Kenny, was on the pole for last Sunday's prestigious Winchester 400.
Every Monday morning, usually Rusty calls me up and doesn't try to help me out in any of the setups or anything, but mentally he helps me out a lot trying to figure out each racetrack and the race setups. And he watches me. He gets nervous. He's real nervous when he watches me. I think he'd rather be just hiding in a corner watching me go by.
All eyes today would be on points contenders, Butch Miller, who always runs well here, and Mike Eddy.
Can you win that championship?
Well, if everything goes good today, it'd be no problem. The only way we won't win the championship is we had really bad luck.
Qualifying results in the tightest bunch 30-car starting field in history, compounding the problems Eddy might have at this venerable track where trouble can strike quickly and often. Wallace leads the first 79 laps before retiring with a broken pinion gear in his rear axle. The moment Eddy didn't want to face comes on lap 138. Smoke is evident from underneath his left rear. Knowing he must finish 16th or better to win the championship, Eddy gets out of the car to replace a broken heim joint, losing valuable time in the process. 25 laps later, he's back out and running and still in the hunt for the championship. Meanwhile, the front runners are having problems. Bob Senegar has a right front suspension part break and is into the wall, but okay. And Harold Thayer's hood goes up, costing him any chance at a win. That left the door open for Butch Miller. With threatening skies overhead, he passes Dave Jackson and takes the lead at the halfway point. And neither the rain, which never materialized, nor a late race caution could stop Miller, who wins his second Winchester 400 in 3 years. But the big winner was Mike Eddy. Had he not been able to fix his car, he would have lost the championship to Miller by 1 point. Instead, Eddy becomes ASA's first ever 5-time champion.
This in here is mine. I built the car, I maintain it, I do all the work, and I'm one person, and I won the championship.
And that championship puts Mike one up on Mark Martin, who has 4.
Here's all the money people have won by not playing the South Dakota Lottery. And here's all the fun and excitement people are having by not playing the lottery. But people who are playing the lottery are finding out there's more fun, and there's more games to play. Plus, there's more ways to win lots of cash. Win $10,000 instantly playing First and 10,000, the new game from the South Dakota Lottery.
It's all happening at your lottery retailer. More games to play.
And more ways to win.
Are you playing?
The Peace Corps. It's creating food systems in Africa, building homes in Costa Rica. It's fighting malaria. It's teaching math and learning French. It's working side by side. It's been tough, but for 25 years, the Peace Corps has been making a difference in the world. Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love.
The Disabled American Veterans urges you to leave handicapped parking spaces for those who need them. To help, write the DAV, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45214.
Belmont Stakes winner, Easy Goer, returns to Belmont Park for its richest race. He continues his battle for Horse of the Year honors in the $1 Million Jockey Club Gold Cup, Saturday afternoon on ESPN.
For the second consecutive week, there was a major race in which rules were either bent, broken, or tested. No, not in Formula One, but IMSA. At the World Challenge of Tampa, where the Nissans were battling the Jaguars, and Nissan teammates Chip Robinson and Jeff Brabham were battling each other for the Drivers' Championship. The race began routinely as Jeff took his Nissan to the front, leaving Jan Lammers in the Turbo Jag in second. Several drivers will remember the number 9 here at Tampa. That's the turn where most accidents occurred, including this one by Juan Manuel Fangio in one of the Toyotas. Not too long after the cleanup, there's another crash. This time it's Dan Marvin and Rocky Moran in the other Toyota. Marvin was leading in the Camel Lights division at the time. None of the crashes will involve driver injury. 22 laps from the end, and Brabham is having fuel feed problems. Time in the pits will cost him 5 laps and result in a 6th place finish. Just 6 laps to go now, and the field is set to restart from another yellow. Robinson is leading, but accelerating into the last corner, he loses it in front of the entire field. Price Cobb and the normally aspirated Jaguar slips through. Teammate Lammers on the far right is into the wall and is the only one who won't be able to continue. The lineup for the restart finds Chip 6th in line. He knows he'll have to take drastic action to win. There will only be one more lap of racing. As Cobb comes off the corner for the green flag, Chip is missing. He's darted onto pit road and at full throttle passes 4 cars. He rejoins the field right behind Cobb and chases him all the way to the checkered. But IMSA says 2 rules have been violated. Chip is relegated back to a 4th place finish. Cobb, meanwhile, wins his 2nd race of the year and is rewarded for agreeing to drive the normally aspirated car while his turbo is being prepared for the last race at Del Mar. He was just happy to survive all that crashing.
I've never seen such total destruction before in my life, and then to see what happened, 6 laps to go, for us was a blessing in disguise, and I took it.
You can see more of this World Challenge of Tampa IMSA race here on ESPN at 2:30 Eastern Time Monday afternoon. Robinson has a slim 4-point lead over Brabham going into the final event at Del Mar in 2 weeks. In Formula One, Ayrton Senna has been backed into a corner, but there's no question he's not giving up. At the Spanish Grand Prix, last year's champion proved it's too early to rule out the chance for 2 in a row. Rick DeBrule has that story.
The Spanish Grand Prix was a classic demonstration of the McLaren Senna package. Ayrton Senna started from the pole, the 40th of his career. He held off Gerhard Berger's Ferrari going into turn 1, and at that point the race was basically over, at least up front. Just 2 turns later, Satoru Nakajima was getting his fellow drivers' attentions by first sliding off the track and then whipping back across in front of several cars. The Japanese driver, now committed to Arrows for next year, came to a rest all by himself. In the lead pack, the pattern was set for the race. Senna, followed by Berger, and then Alain Prost. The Minardi of Pierluigi Martini was a pleasant surprise in 4th. An unfortunate spin, though, later in the race put an end to his efforts. Unlike Portugal, where Nigel Mansell backed up in pit lane and ran smack into the FISA rulebook, the Spanish pit stops came off without a hitch. Senna's a tick slower than Berger, but not enough to lose the lead. With the in-car camera mounted in Senna's McLaren, we got to see a touch of Brazilian fury when Felipe Alio's Lola Lamborghini blocked his way for a time. The Minardi team, which has been showing so much potential of late, didn't even get to finish in Spain. Luis Sala coming together with Mauricio Gugelmin, knocking both of them out. Late in the race, Berger's Ferrari began to spew something out the back, but only now and then, and not enough to either slow or put him into the DNF mode. 11 straight non-finishes at the start of the season was quite enough for him, thank you. The finish was Senna, Berger, and then Prost. Prost picking up an extra point in the championship battle by finishing 3rd. But with the pole, the win, and the fastest lap, Senna proved that with 2 races to go, he is down, but most definitely not out of the World Championship battle. I'm Rick DeBrule reporting for Speedweek.
A lot of conversation in the pit area at Jerez concerning Nigel Mansell, who was serving a 1-race suspension for ignoring the black flag at Portugal. His appeal was heard today in Paris.
Members of the National Council of Corvette Clubs. To them, there's no car but a vet and no tire but a Goodyear Eagle ZR. We invited them to a showdown, Dunlop D40 M2 against Eagle ZR. Slaloms on wet and dry roads. Hard cornering. Braking. Comfort and noise on the highway. Which tire would they buy now? All 10 pick the Dunlop D40 M2. Dunlop outperforms.
She's growing old. T is for for the tears were shed to save me. Ages for her heart of purest gold.
Moms and compact cars like the hot little Dodge Shadow. Somehow they aren't making them like they used to.
The National Hot Rod Association was making headlines over the weekend for their first ever visit to the new Heartland Park Topeka Motorsports Complex. Shirley Muldowney, proving that her performance at the last meet wasn't a fluke, was the first on the track and the only one to break the 5-second barrier, and again was #1 qualifier for Top Fuel. But the point situation, which was already close, became even closer in Top Fuel and funny cars. But first, Pro Stock. Joe Lapone Jr. would make it to the finals for only the second time this year. His opponent, Darrell Alderman, who beat the #1 qualifier Warren Johnson in the second round. Alderman in the far lane gets the hole shot, and his 500 cubic inch Dodge has enough to hold off the Chevrolet for Alderman's second win of the year. In funny cars, points leaders Bruce Larson and Kenny Bernstein were both defeated in the second round by today's finalists. Ed McCulloch in the far lane and Mark Oswald. The national speed and ET record holder is looking for his first win of the year. And he gets it. The ace smokes the tires off the line, and Mark has his 14th career victory. With 3 races remaining, Bruce Larson has pulled out to a rather comfortable lead, but look at the battle for second. Only 660 points separate Bernstein, Don Prudhomme, and Topeka finalists McCulloch and Oswald. 200 points are available per round in each event. The Top Fuel division was a battle of Michigan residents. Mount Clemens' Shirley Muldowney, after qualifying, every run she made this weekend except one was a 5-0. Her opponent, Lansing's Dick LaHaye. And what a classic this would be. Green, LaHaye has a better reaction time, but Shirley doesn't give up. And despite a quicker ET, lost to the '87 Top Fuel champion. The points even closer than the funny cars. Only 342 separate the top 3, Gary Ormsby, Joe Amato, and Topeka champ LaHaye. NHRA's return to Kansas was a homecoming of sorts. Drag racing became a national sport in that state 35 years ago, but hadn't been back until last weekend. Ken Evans reports on the return to the Heartland.
1955. Still outlawed in most states, drag racing can't be called a sport yet, but that year in Great Bend, Kansas, the NHRA gave birth to a national motorsport.
We settled on Kansas first because of its geographical location for convenience, and we settled on Great Bend because it was in close to the center of the United States, but primarily because the Chamber of Commerce invited us to come there and utilize one runway of their municipal airport.
So championship drag racing has its roots in Kansas, but it didn't stick around long.
Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go.
After only one event, the NHRA left for bluer skies in California and stayed there until this week. 35 years later, the NHRA is back in the Heartland for a national event. But as you can imagine, a lot has changed since 1955. 1955, they still used a live starter with a flag. Now, a high-tech multi-stage light system starts each race with precision, which makes reaction time important. Reaction times and even elapsed times didn't matter in the 50s because the goal wasn't the finish line, it was top speed, pure and simple. And the incentive was pure and simple, too. No money awaited the winner, only pride and a trophy.
There was zero money in it when I started. We ran for trophies. And believe it or not, that was a big deal to win a trophy. It's like a kid in the high school when you win your first trophy. I've been at it for a while, and obviously it's changed a great deal. We had junkyard parts. We relied on the junkyards to supply us parts to run our race cars. Now we rely on manufacturers that build titanium parts.
And today, the quarter mile is a lot shorter than it used to be.
But the times, the speeds that are involved now, we were commenting earlier, the Bustle Bomb ran 151 miles an hour, and now they're turning 287. So they're 130 miles an hour faster in the quarter than they were 35 years ago.
The difference in Great Bend's 55 drag tower and Heartland Park's 89 tower is part of what is drawing drag racing back to Kansas now.
It's taken until now and here in Topeka to come up with a facility that could accommodate the production of a major championship event. It's unfortunate maybe that it took 35 years to get here, but in those 35 years, why we've developed such a tremendous program now that we know we can come in and continue to produce one of the #1 sporting events in the country.
As the inaugural Heartland Nationals got underway, it was clear the drivers and crews were concentrating on the here and now. But longtime fans, ex-drivers, and officials were taking mental and emotional trips back to Great Bend, where it all began. I'm Ken Evans for Speedweek.
One driver who has played a big role in making drag racing the popular sport it is today is Big Daddy Don Garlitz, and he hopes to become a member of the Under 5 Second Club this weekend at the Motorplex in Texas. He'll borrow Shirley Muldowney's car for the attempt.
From dawn's early light till the sun is set, Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
Quaker State exceeds every single car maker's U.S. requirements for maximum engine protection. That's why in Atlanta, Georgia, the engine in every fire truck, every police car, every Atlanta city-owned vehicle is a Quaker State engine.
Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Whoa! Frank, I send you for a Bud Light, and you bring back...
Well, if you want the one light that outshines them all, ask for Bud Light.
So, there are no men here, there's an unlimited supply of Bud Light, and we can never leave.
Correct.
Because everything else is just a light.
We can live with that.
Yeah.
The NFL dream season continues as Joe Namath tries to spoil Don Shula's perfect team. The 68 Jets face the 72 Dolphins at 8:15 Eastern on ESPN.
Racing is a serious and risky business. Drivers literally put their lives on the line every time they've strapped themselves into a race car. But while delving through the archives of Dick Wallen, we found several examples of the lighter side of racing. And they're the subject of this week's Dick Wallen Racing Classic.
You've heard of cars being jump-started? Well, this flagman appears to be taking that phrase to heart, literally. But they're not the only ones who find the going rough sometimes. What about the pace car driver? Or in this case, the pace car? Colby Scroggins does a fine job missing Al Miller, only to find this convertible parked at the pit entrance. Better get that insurance agent on the phone. And what's this? Looks like AJ's trying to help out his competition again. And speaking of helping out, Alan Heath has a few pointers of his own for this poor official on how to really throw the flag. Okay, so drivers get frustrated, but sometimes perseverance can pay off. Gary Calvert has trouble at Indianapolis Raceway Park, but is soon back in the thick of things. Whoops, well, back into the wall again anyway. Now, Gary, don't make any hasty decisions. After all, there's always the next race. We've all been told how serious those pre-race drivers' meetings are, but it appears somebody forgot to tell Mario and Johnny Rutherford. Hey, what about a nice cold beer to end a perfect day? Sorry, JR, only milk in Victory Lane. Could somebody wake Parnelli up? Well, that nap must have given him some extra energy. He's no match for the competition today. Guess that's what you call being a real sleeper.
Well, that's it for another edition of Speed Week. Have a good weekend. We'll see you back here next Thursday night at 7:30 Eastern Time. We leave you with action from the Mickey Thompson Off-Road Grand Prix in Las Vegas, where Ironman Ivan Stewart beat teammate Robbie Gordon in Grand National Trucks. So long, everyone.
Speed Week has been brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. And by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light.